Yes, sir.
Would you please raise your right hand? Well, where are you? There you are.
Can you see me?
You solemnly swear that in this proceeding, the information and responses you submit will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Put your hand down. I believe you were charged with DWI. Is that correct, Mr. Montalvo?
That is correct, Your Honor.
All right. And is it correct to say that you have agreed on some kind of a plea?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Hottenrot, before we proceed, I need to explain to you and remind you that you have specific constitutional rights and protections. There's 5 of them that I will mention for you. The first one being that you have the right to remain silent. That means you do not have to make any kind of statement. You don't have to answer questions. You don't have to submit written paperwork that has your signature, specifically any kind of document that admits or confesses to wrongdoing. You understand you have that right?
Yes, sir.
You also have the right to a jury trial. That means you do not have to, pardon me, that means you and your attorney and the state could select 6 jurors from a jury panel of disinterested citizens. Those 6 people would hear all the evidence, testimony, see whatever is presented by the state, and they would decide whether you are not guilty or whether you have been proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt. That's called the right to a jury trial. Do you understand you have that right?
Yes, sir.
You also have the right to confront witnesses. That means that if you decided to go to trial, the state would have to present witnesses to testify and attempt to prove evidence to be considered. That way, that person or persons who would testify would be subject to you and your attorney questioning, cross-examining, or challenging every witness. That's called the right to confront witnesses. You understand you have that right?
Yes, sir.
There's also a right called the right to appeal. After all of this is the dust settles, this thing is over and completed, you and your attorney would have the right individually or together to demand that a higher court review the official record in this proceeding and decide any kind of legal challenges that you might have. Now, the right to appeal is a little bit complex because it requires, one, that you follow the time limitations that are by law. Also, it requires that the paperwork, the documents that you use be according to form and substance within the law. That's called the right to appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
There's also a right called the right to demand a public open courtroom hearing. In this proceeding, we're doing this by video conference because of the COVID pandemic. We haven't been doing the hearings in the open courtroom. In order for us to proceed today, it was necessary for you to review a document wherein you're identified and it says that you agree to a video conference proceeding as opposed to an open courtroom public live proceeding. Did you in fact review a document that said that you wanted to go ahead and proceed in the open public, pardon me, that you wanted to proceed by video conference instead of the open public courtroom?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, Mr. Montalvo, did you review with Mr. Hottenrot the documents that he has signed that are part of this proceeding?
Yes, Your Honor.
Does he have any, in your mind, does he have any questions that have not been resolved?
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
Did you yourself sign a document affirming that the state has complied with Article 39.14 Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, in that the state has provided all the discovery that is required by law?
Yes, sir, I have.
All right. Mr. Hottenrod, the first document that I asked you about was the document titled Defendant's Consent to Video Conference. There's another
Yeah.
document that's very important. That one is titled, first of all, it identifies you by the case number and name. And then it is titled Defendant's Waiver of Constitutional Rights and Court's Admonitions. That document includes identifying what you're charged with and how you're pleading. It identifies the rights that I have talked to you about verbally, but it also establishes in writing the multitude of rights and protections that you're afforded in this proceeding. Are you aware of the document that I'm referring to?
Yes, sir.
That same document also tells you, among other things, there's 14 numbered statements or declarations. One of them says that as the judge, I have the authority and responsibility to say yes or no to your plea bargain agreement. I have to say one or the other. I also have the authority to give you any punishment within the range of punishment by law for the offense to which you are pleading. Did you see and understand that statement within that document?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions about that document?
I do not.
And you did sign it.
Yes, sir.
All right, there's another document. It's titled Trial Court's Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal. In that document, I personally certify to you and tell you that because you're participating in a plea bargain agreement, your right to appeal is forsaken or given up. Did you see and understand that document?
Yes, sir.
And you did sign it.
Yes, sir.
All right. State, what is going to be is there a motion from the state on this matter?
No, Judge.
And what is going to be the plea and to what?
It's a no contest plea, Judge, and it is to 12 months deferred.
To DWI first.
Yes, Judge.
All right.
Yes, sir. That is the defense's understanding.
Mr. Hottenrod, let's talk about what you're pleading to. First of all, a no contest plea in this court is considered a guilty plea and alone is sufficient for me to convict you. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Also, deferred adjudication, it is a very beneficial probation that has been gotten for you. Do you understand that deferred adjudication is a form of probation? And specifically, in a deferred adjudication, even though you're going to enter a plea of no contest, which we already established is considered a guilty plea, I will not find you guilty. But, and critically important is that you will not be convicted of the charge so long as you live up to 100% of the conditions of supervision. If you live up to 100% of the conditions, then the charge to which you're going to plead will be dismissed without a conviction under Texas law. If you fail or refuse to live up to 100% of the conditions of supervision, I mean that very literally, then the state may ask me to give you notice and bring you in for a hearing, at which time, if in my opinion the evidence calls for it, I will enter a final conviction that follows you the rest of your life. And you'll be looking at 100% of the range of punishment. A DWI first range of punishment is a fine from $0 to $2,000, anywhere in between, or jail, a minimum of 72 continuous hours in jail, all the way to 180 days. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Then officially then to the charge of DWI first or misdemeanor B, how do you plead, sir?
No contest, sir.
Again, no contest is considered a guilty plea. Did anyone threaten you, intimidate you, or promise you anything in exchange for the plea of no contest?
No, sir.
Based on your plea of no contest and the evidence, I find there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty. But I will not find you guilty. I will defer that finding for 12 months. If you live up to all the conditions at the end of those 12 months, if you have lived up to all the conditions of supervision, then the case will be dismissed and there is no conviction for the DWI to which you are pleading. If during that time there is a problem, I already told you what the consequence is. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
State, what is the agreement as far as the deferred adjudication?
Judge, it's for 12 months and it is a $500 fine plus court costs, 48 community service hours, DWI education, victim impact panel, TAP evaluation, ignition interlock for half the term, and restitution, if any, to be determined by probation.
That is the defense's understanding.
That is restitution to whom?
Judge, I don't have the name of the victim in this case. It's just if any to be determined.
Okay. Mr. Hottenrod, just so you're aware, you'll have to wait. There's a lady waiting to talk to you. Her name is Maricela Luna. She will start you on the path to the probation. Now, I've told you several times, you have to live up to 100% of the conditions of supervision. In this particular case, each of the conditions will be read to you. You will sign them, and a copy will be put in your hands. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
All right. Then I approve of the agreement. Tell me though, what is your income? How do you make a living?
I currently work for Amazon. I make $15 an hour, but it is a seasonal employment currently. So by, I think, December 31st is the last day of my employment. So
Okay.
obviously I'll try to get another job after that, but I don't have any current prospects.
So you're working 40 hours plus?
I work 40 hours a week. Yes, sir.
That's 600 a week rather. That's 24, 25, 2,600 a month. Do you have children you support?
I do not, sir.
All right. I agree with the sentence. You are fined, first of all, you're granted 12 months deferred, fined $500 plus court costs. You will perform 48 hours community service restitution. You will complete the DWI education program in good faith. You will complete the victim impact panel. You'll submit to a TAP evaluation and the recommendation. You will have ignition interlock for a minimum of 6 months. That will be a continuous 6 months on the vehicle to which you have access. During those 6 months, you're not to drive any other vehicle other than your own that has the ignition interlock installed. You will pay restitution.
Yes.
As to be determined to whom and how much, if any. Your supervisory fee, as of right now, will be $34 a month. Questions, Mr. Hottenrod?
No, sir.
Mr. Montalvo.
Your Honor, Mr. Hottenrot brought it to my attention that perhaps on the paperwork, it might have indicated that Mr. Hottenrot was not a U.S. citizen. I just wanted to correct that. Mr. Hottenrot is a U.S. citizen.
Very good. The record will so reflect.
And that is all, Your Honor.
Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Montalvo, Mr. Hottenrot, appreciate that. Anything else?
Nothing from the defense.
Then, with the exception of Mr.